My father made me sleep in the shed for 3 years growing up. Now he's homeless and just showed up at the mansion I built asking to crash for a while. Before I share what happened next, do me one favor. Subscribe and tell me the city or country you're watching from. I love knowing where our stories reach. The doorbell rang at exactly 9:30 p.m. and I knew something was wrong. Nobody just shows up at a gated property in Buckhead without calling first. Through the security camera I saw him, Malcolm Davis, my father, looking like he'd been sleeping under bridges. His clothes were wrinkled, his beard unkempt, and he carried everything he owned in a trash bag. My hands started shaking. I hadn't seen this man in 12 years, not since I left Atlanta at 18 with $200 and a bus ticket to New York. Aaliyah. Baby girl, I know you're in there. His voice crackled through the intercom, that same fake warmth he used to use before telling me to get the hell outside for the night. My husband Louis appeared behind me, his hand on my shoulder. Who is that? That's Malcolm, I said, my throat tight. My father. Louis knew the stories, but seeing the man in person was different. This was the man who made me sleep in a tool shed from age 13 to 16 because his girlfriend Sheila said I was too grown and made her uncomfortable. The same man who told me I'd never amount to anything when I got accepted to Georgia State on a full scholarship. You want me to call security? Louis asked. I stared at the screen, watching Malcolm look up at the camera with those pleading eyes. He was practicing his victim face, the one he used to manipulate everyone around him. But I wasn't that scared little girl anymore. I was a 30-year-old woman who'd built a tech consulting firm from nothing, who owned this 8,000 square foot mansion, who married a man who actually loved her. No, I said, my voice steady. Let him in. It's time we had a conversation. As I watched Malcolm shuffle through my front gate, memories flooded back like a dam breaking. Age 13, 7th grade, when everything changed. My mother had died 2 years earlier from breast cancer, and Malcolm had been dating Sheila for 6 months. She was 32 to his 45, always wore too much makeup and worked at the check-cashing place on Cascade Road. Your daughter looks at me funny, Sheila had told him one night. I'd overheard them from my bedroom, my actual bedroom back then. She's getting curves and attitude. I don't feel comfortable with her around when you're not home. I was a child. A 13-year-old child who just started developing and was awkward as hell about it. But Malcolm didn't defend me. He didn't tell Sheila she was being ridiculous. Instead, 3 days later he came into my room with a sleeping bag. You're gonna sleep in the shed out back for a while, he said, not looking at me. Just until Sheila gets more comfortable. What? Daddy, no. Don't argue with me, Aaliyah. It's got electricity and heat. You'll be fine. That shed was where we kept the lawnmower, old paint cans, and spiders bigger than my palm. It was 12 feet by 8 feet with a small space heater that barely worked and a naked bulb hanging from the ceiling. That first night I cried until my throat hurt. A while turned into 3 years. 3 years of sneaking into the house at 5 a.m. to shower before school. 3 years of doing homework by flashlight when the electricity cut out. 3 years of hearing Sheila and Malcolm laughing inside the warm house while I shivered outside. My best friend Jasmine's mom, Mrs. Reed, tried to report it to CPS, but Malcolm was a supervisor at the Fulton County Sanitation Department. He knew people. The social worker who came by saw the shed had electricity and heat, saw I was fed and clothed, and left. Nobody saved me. I had to save myself. Louis stood behind me as I opened the massive mahogany door. Malcolm's eyes went wide, taking in the marble foyer, the crystal chandelier, the curved staircase that cost more than the house I grew up in. Damn, baby girl. You really did it, he said, stepping forward like he was about to hug me. I held up my hand. Don't. He stopped, that familiar wounded look crossing his face. That's how you greet your father? After all these years? My father. The words tasted bitter. You mean the man who made me sleep in a shed like a dog from 13 to 16? That father. Aaliyah, baby, I was going through a hard time back then. Sheila was. Don't blame Sheila. I cut him off. You were the parent. You were supposed to protect me. Instead, you chose a woman over your own daughter. Malcolm's shoulders sagged. He looked older than 60, his face weathered and tired. I know I messed up. I know it. That's why I'm here. I need help, and you're the only family I got left. Louis cleared his throat. Maybe we should sit down and talk about this. I didn't want Malcolm in my living room, didn't want him contaminating the space Louis and I had built together. But I needed to hear what he wanted, needed to understand the audacity. We moved to the sitting room, me and Louis on one couch, Malcolm perched nervously on the edge of the other. His trash bag sat at his feet, everything he owned in the world. So, I said, my voice cold. You're homeless. How'd that happen? Malcolm rubbed his face. Lost my job 3 years ago. Pension got messed up in some legal thing. Sheila left me when the money ran out, took the house in the divorce. Been living in my car, then the car got repossessed last month. I tried staying with your cousin Eddie, but his wife kicked me out after 2 weeks. Sounds familiar, I said. Getting kicked out of your own home. How'd that feel? Malcolm winced at my words but pressed on. I ain't here to make excuses. I'm here to ask for help. You got all these rooms, this big house. I just need a place to crash for a while, get back on my feet. Maybe a month or 2. I felt Louis tense beside me. We'd talked about this exact scenario before, him asking what I'd do if Malcolm ever showed up. I'd said I'd slam the door in his face. But seeing him here, broken and desperate, stirred something complicated in my chest. A month or 2, I repeated. Just like the shed was supposed to be a while. I deserve that, Malcolm said quietly. I deserve all your anger. But I'm 60 years old, Aaliyah. I got diabetes, high blood pressure. I need help. You needed help? What about when I needed help? My voice rose. What about when I was 14 and got pneumonia from sleeping in that freezing shed, and you told me to take some Dayquil and stop being dramatic? What about when kids at school found out where I slept and bullied me so bad I tried to hurt myself? Malcolm's eyes widened. You never told me that. I tried to. You told me to toughen up. I was standing now, 12 years of rage pouring out. Do you know what it's like being 15 years old, sleeping in a shed while your father and his girlfriend watch cable TV in the house? Do you know what it's like showering at school because you're too scared to come inside? Aaliyah, Louis tried to calm me. No, let me say this. I turned back to Malcolm. I stayed in that shed until I was 16, until I got a job at Publix and saved every single penny. The day I turned 18, I took my savings, my scholarship letter, and I left. I survived in New York in a homeless shelter for 2 months before I got my work-study money. I built everything from nothing while you were warm and comfortable with Sheila. Malcolm's face crumpled. I know. God, I know. I was a terrible father. The worst. But I'm begging you. The way I begged you to let me back inside the house? The silence that followed was deafening. Louis stood up, his 6'3" frame commanding attention. Mr. Davis, I think we need to take a break. This is clearly emotional for everyone. Can I get you some water? Malcolm nodded gratefully and Louis left for the kitchen. The moment he was gone, Malcolm leaned forward. He seems like a good man. You picked well. Don't try to bond with me, I said. You don't get to have opinions on my life anymore. Fair enough. He looked around the room again at the family photos on the mantel. Me and Louis at our wedding, our trip to Dubai, Christmas with Louis's parents who'd treated me better in 1 year than Malcolm had in 16. You got kids. That's none of your business. Right. Sorry. He paused. I saw your company's article in Fortune magazine at the library. Tech Queen of Atlanta. How Aaliyah Davis Phillips built a multi-million-dollar consulting empire. I was proud. Something in me snapped. You were proud? You were proud. I moved toward him and he flinched. You don't get to be proud. You get to be ashamed. You should have been proud when I made honor roll while sleeping in a shed. When I got a full ride to college despite everything. When I graduated summa cum laude while working 3 jobs. But you weren't there for any of that. I know, he whispered. Louis returned with water and a sandwich. Always thinking of others, my Louis. Malcolm took them gratefully, his hands shaking. Thank you, son. Don't call me son, Louis said firmly but politely. Mr. Davis, I've heard every story about what you put Aaliyah through. I'm here because she's here, but I'm not your friend. Malcolm nodded, chastened. He bit into the sandwich like he hadn't eaten in days. Maybe he hadn't. I watched him eat, this broken man who'd once had all the power over me. Life had a way of turning tables, didn't it? After Malcolm finished eating, I sat back down. What's the real reason you're here? And don't give me that family nonsense. You haven't called me in 12 years. You didn't come to my college graduation. You weren't invited to my wedding. So why now? Malcolm set down the empty plate, guilt written across his face. Eddie's wife didn't just kick me out randomly. He kicked me out after I asked if I could borrow some money. $5,000. You tried to scam your nephew? Louis shook his head. I wasn't scamming. I needed it for a business opportunity. This guy I met at the shelter, he had a plan. A plan, I interrupted. Let me guess. Some get-rich-quick scheme that needed seed money. And when Eddie's wife said no, she realized you'd just mooch off them forever. Malcolm's silence was admission enough. So you came here because Eddie told you about my success. You saw a bigger mark. That ain't it. Aaliyah, you're my daughter. I stopped being your daughter when you chose Sheila over me. I was shouting now. Do you know I used to pray every night in that shed? I prayed for you to wake up, to remember you loved me, to choose me just once. But you never did. Malcolm's eyes filled with tears. I was weak. Sheila had me twisted up. She'd threatened to leave, and I was scared of being alone after your mama died. And I wasn't alone. I was a child. I was your child. My own tears came now, hot and angry. I needed you and you failed me. Completely. I know. Knowing isn't enough. I paced the room. You want to know what happened after I left? I worked as a janitor at night while taking classes during the day. I ate ramen noodles for 2 years straight. I had panic attacks in bathrooms because I was so stressed about money. But I never called you. You know why? Malcolm shook his head, tears streaming down his face. Because I'd rather sleep on the street than ask you for anything ever again. I was about to tell Malcolm to leave when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I usually didn't answer those, but something made me pick up. Hello. Is this Aaliyah Davis? A woman's voice, familiar but older. Who is this? It's Sheila. Don't hang up, please. My blood ran cold. I looked at Malcolm, who'd gone pale. How did you get this number? From Eddie. Listen, I heard Malcolm showed up at your place. I need to tell you something. Something I should have told you years ago. I put the phone on speaker. Louis moved closer, protective. Malcolm looked like he might be sick. Talk, I said. Sheila's voice cracked. I was wrong about you. I was so wrong. I was 26 when I met Malcolm, insecure as hell, and when I saw how pretty you were getting, how smart, I got jealous. Not in a weird way, just in a his daughter is better than me way. I convinced myself you were threatening our relationship. I was a child, I said coldly. I know. God, I know. And I manipulated Malcolm. I told him if he didn't put boundaries up with you, I'd leave. I made him choose between us every single day. And he chose me and I felt powerful. But it was evil. What I did to you was evil. Malcolm was crying openly now. Sheila, stop. No, Malcolm. She deserves to know. Sheila continued, after you left, I felt guilty. Started seeing a therapist. He helped me realize I'd abused you. Emotional abuse, neglect. I called CPS and confessed everything, but you were already gone. I divorced Malcolm 5 years ago not because of money, but because I couldn't live with what we'd done. Why are you telling me this now? I asked. Because Malcolm called me yesterday bragging about how you're rich now, how he was going to get you to help him. And I couldn't let him con you. You don't owe him anything, Aaliyah. Not a damn thing. The line went dead. Malcolm stood up, his face twisted with anger. She had no right. She had every right. I screamed. She told me the truth. You came here to use me. That's not, I do need help, that part's true. But you also thought you could manipulate me. Play the poor old father card. Make me feel guilty. I laughed bitterly. Did you actually think that would work? Lewis stepped between us. Mr. Davis, I think you should leave. Please, Aaliyah. I got nowhere to go. Just one night. Let me stay one night and I'll figure something out tomorrow. I thought about it. One night of having him under my roof, this man who'd made me feel worthless for years. The man who'd broken me so badly I'd spent 4 years in therapy learning how to accept love from Lewis. You want to stay here? I asked quietly. Hope lit up Malcolm's face. Yes. Please. Fine. You can stay. I watched relief wash over him. In the shed. His face fell. What? We have a beautiful tool shed out back. 12 by 10 feet bigger than what you gave me. It's got electricity, heat, even a small bathroom we installed. You can stay there. One night. Aaliyah, baby, you can't be serious. I'm dead serious. You said the shed was good enough for me. So it's good enough for you. Lewis's hand found mine, squeezing. He understood what I was doing. Malcolm's voice shook. This is cruel. Cruel. I stepped closer to him. Cruel is making your daughter sleep outside for 3 years. Cruel is choosing a girlfriend over your child. Cruel is showing up 12 years later asking for money. This is called consequences, Malcolm. Welcome to them. I'm an old man. And I was a child. You'll survive one night. Unless you'd rather leave now and try your luck on the streets. Malcolm looked between me and Lewis, realizing neither of us would budge. Finally, he picked up his trash bag. One night, I confirmed. I walked Malcolm out to the shed behind our infinity pool, past the guest house where our actual guests stayed. The shed was nice. We'd renovated it last year thinking we'd use it as a yoga studio. It had heating, cooling, a small bathroom with a shower. It was luxury compared to what I'd had. There's towels in the bathroom, blankets in the closet, I said flatly. Door locks from the inside. You're safe. Malcolm stepped inside, looking around at the cedar walls, the clean floor, the actual insulation. This is nicer than what you gave me. I know. I stood in the doorway. I wanted you to see what humane treatment looks like. What you should have given me. He sat on the daybed, his shoulders slumped. I'm sorry. I know I say that a lot, but I was a coward. Being sorry doesn't fix anything, I said. Sorry doesn't give me back those years. Sorry doesn't erase the trauma. Sorry doesn't heal the part of me that thought I was unlovable because my own father couldn't stand having me in the house. You're not unlovable, Malcolm whispered. Look at everything you built. Look at your husband, your success. I built that despite you, not because of you. Don't you dare try to take credit. I gripped the doorframe. You want to know something? When I first started dating Louis, I couldn't sleep in the same room as him. I'd panic, feel trapped. I had to sleep on the couch for 6 months until therapy helped me work through it. Because of you. Because you made the bedroom a place I got thrown out of. Malcolm's face crumpled with fresh guilt. I just want you to understand what you cost me. Not just the 3 years in the shed, but everything after. The years of therapy, the nightmares, the trust issues, the fear. That's your legacy, Malcolm. That's what you gave me. He couldn't meet my eyes. What can I do? Tell me how to make it right. Nothing, I said simply. There's nothing you can do. Some things can't be fixed. They can only be survived. I closed the shed door and walked back to my mansion, my real home where I was loved and safe. And for the first time in 12 years, I didn't look back. I barely slept that night. Louis held me as I cried, really cried for the first time in years. All that old pain came flooding back. The cold nights, the loneliness, the sound of their laughter inside the house while I shivered outside. You did the right thing, Louis whispered. You set a boundary. Then why do I feel so guilty? Because you're a good person who was raised by a bad parent. That's not your fault. At 6 a.m. I got up and made coffee. Through the kitchen window I could see the shed. The light was on. Malcolm was awake. Part of me wanted to bring him breakfast to show I was better than him. But the smarter part knew that would just start a cycle. At 7:30 my phone rang. Eddie. Aaliyah? Look, I heard Malcolm went to you. I'm sorry, I tried to warn you, but... How'd you know he was here? He called me last night crying about how you made him sleep in a shed. Tried to make me feel sorry for him, said you were cruel. I laughed without humor. Of course he did. Did you tell him he's crazy? Nah, I told him he was lucky you didn't call the cops. Then I told him something he didn't know. Eddie paused. Remember Mrs. Reed? Your friend Jasmine's mom. Yeah, she tried to help me back then. She did more than try. I found out last year that she reported Malcolm 5 times to CPS. 5 times. But Malcolm had connections at the county, so nothing happened. Mrs. Reed even called your school, got them to give you free meals because she knew you weren't eating right. She tried, Aaliyah. She really tried. Tears filled my eyes. I never knew. Malcolm made sure you didn't. He told people you were dramatic, lying for attention. Turned folks against you. Mrs. Reed told my mama everything before she moved to California. Is she still alive? Yeah, lives in San Diego now. I can get you her number if you want. I'd like that. We talked for a few more minutes before hanging up. I had more people in my corner back then than I realized. Malcolm had just isolated me so well I couldn't see it. At 8 a.m. I walked back to the shed. Malcolm was sitting outside on the small step looking at my pool, my garden, my life. Morning, I said. He looked up, his eyes red. I called Eddie last night. I know. He called me. I wanted him to tell you I wasn't trying to manipulate you. But then he told me about Mrs. Reed. About all the times she tried to help you. Malcolm's voice broke. I blocked her number. I told the school she was overstepping. I made sure nobody could help you. I know, I said quietly. I figured that out in therapy. Why? His question was raw. Why do you let me stay even in the shed? I don't deserve even that. I sat down on the grass not too close to him. Because I needed you to feel it. Just for one night. I needed you to understand physically what you put me through. But also, I took a deep breath. I needed to prove to myself that I'm not you. Malcolm wiped his eyes. You're nothing like me. You're strong. You're successful. I'm strong because I had to be. I'm successful because I refused to let you define me. I picked at the grass. But there's a part of me that's still that 13-year-old girl, waiting for her father to choose her. And I needed to face you as an adult, as someone with power, to kill that part of me. Did it work? I considered the question. I don't know yet. But I know I don't owe you anything. Not shelter, not money, not forgiveness. Nothing. Malcolm nodded slowly. What about basic human decency? What about it? You mean the decency you didn't show me? I stood up. Here's what's going to happen. I'm going to give you $2,000. Gosh. That's enough for a security deposit on a room somewhere, some food, maybe some clothes. His eyes widened. Aaliyah. I'm not done. In exchange, you sign a paper saying you'll never contact me again. No calls, no visits, no messages through family. We're done. You're paying me to leave you alone? I'm buying my peace, I corrected. There's a difference. Lewis brought out the cash and a simple contract he'd drawn up. Malcolm stared at it for a long time. If I sign this, I'll never see you again, he said. That's the point. What if I get sick? What if I'm dying? Then you'll die knowing you destroyed your relationship with your only child. I felt nothing saying it. No satisfaction, no anger. Just fact. You made your choices, Malcolm. You chose Sheila over me, comfort over responsibility, pride over apology. Now I'm choosing peace over obligation. He picked up the pen, then put it down. What if I don't sign? What if I take the money and still try to contact you? Lewis stepped forward. Then we get a restraining order. And trust me, we have lawyers who make that happen fast. Malcolm looked at me, really looked at me. You've gotten hard. No, I said. I've gotten strong. There's a difference. A hard person would have sent you away last night with nothing. A strong person sets boundaries and sticks to them. Did I really mess you up that bad? The therapy, the trust issues. Is it all because of me? I thought about lying, softening the blow. But he deserved the truth. Yes. Every panic attack, every nightmare, every time I flinch when someone raises their voice. That's you. That's your legacy. But you know what? I survived it. I survived you. And I built something beautiful anyway. I wish I could go back, he whispered. But you can't. None of us can. All we can do is deal with what is. I pushed the contract toward him. Sign it or don't. But either way, you're leaving today. Malcolm picked up the pen again. His hand shook as he signed his name. I watched him sign away any right to be my father, and I felt lighter. Like chains I didn't know I was carrying had suddenly broken. He took the cash, counted it carefully, then stood up. For what it's worth, I am proud of you. I know I don't get to be, but I am. Goodbye, Malcolm, I said simply. He walked toward the front gate, carrying his trash bag and his cash. At the gate, he turned back one last time. I hope you have kids someday. I hope you're the parent I should have been. Then he was gone. 3 months later, I was in my home office when Lewis brought in the mail. You got something from California. I opened it to find a long letter from Mrs. Reed. Eddie had given her my address. In beautiful handwriting, she explained everything she'd tried to do back then, how helpless she'd felt, how proud she was of who I'd become. She included her phone number. I called her immediately. We talked for 2 hours, crying and laughing. He told me about Jasmine, now a doctor in Seattle. She told me she'd always wondered if I hated her for not saving me. I never blamed you, I said. You tried. That's more than most adults did. I should have tried harder. Fought harder. You did what you could in a system that failed me. But you know what? It made me who I am. I looked around my office, at my degrees on the wall, at the photo of me accepting the Atlanta Businesswoman of the Year award. I'm successful, I'm happy, and I married the love of my life. Malcolm didn't win. Mrs. Reed's voice was thick with emotion. No, baby. You won. That night, Lewis found me on our balcony looking at the stars. He wrapped his arms around me from behind. You okay? Yeah, I said and meant it. I really am. No regrets about giving him the money? None. It was the price of my freedom. I turned to face him. I spent so many years waiting for him to choose me, to love me the way a father should. But I can't make him be something he's not. All I can do is choose myself. For the record, Lewis said, kissing my forehead, I choose you too. Every single day. We stood there together in the mansion I built, in the life I created, in the peace I finally found. Malcolm had taken so much from me. My childhood, my sense of safety, years of my life. But he couldn't take this. He couldn't take my success, my love, my future. I thought about that scared 13-year-old girl in the shed, shivering and alone. I wished I could go back and tell her, you're going to make it. You're going to be more than okay. You're going to be extraordinary. As I did make it. Not because of Malcolm, but despite him. And that was the sweetest victory of all. The shed behind my house stood empty now, a reminder of where I came from and how far I'd traveled. Sometimes I'd walk past it and remember those cold nights, those lonely years. But I didn't remember them with pain anymore. I remembered them as proof that I was unbreakable. That I always had been.